Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Prerna, a counseling psychologist and pursuing PhD. Is my voice audible? Can you please comment? एक बार मुझे बता दीजिए कि मेरी वॉइस क्लियर है। मैं आपका एक बार और शानदार वेबिनार में स्वागत करती हूँ। धीरे धीरे सब हमारे साथ ज्वाइन हो रहे हैं। PCF have done more than 100 webinars and 1000 seminars. हमारा लिंक सभी ग्रुप्स में अपडेट कर दिया गया है, इसलिए थोड़ा इंतज़ार करेंगे। हम फेसबुक और लिंक्डइन पर भी लाइव हैं। गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन। मैं आप सबको बताना चाहती हूँ कि आप जब भी हमारे साथ वेबिनार में जुड़ते हैं तो आपको ग्रुप में ऐड कर लिया जाता है और आपको बार बार रजिस्टर करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। आपको उस ग्रुप में अपडेट मिलता रहेगा। सर्टिफिकेट का लिंक भी डिस्क्रिप्शन में ऐड कर दिया। एक और न्यू अपडेट हमारी फाउंडेशन की ओर से किया गया। कुछ लोग सर्टिफिकेट का प्रोसीजर सीरियस नहीं ले रहे हैं, इसलिए हमने कुछ मिनिमम अमाउंट ऑफ फीस रख दी है। कुछ लोग अपने सर्टिफिकेट्स को क्लेम करते हैं बार बार, इसलिए हमने कुछ ना के बराबर फीस रख दी है। आज के हमारे रिसोर्स पर्सन हैं यशी श्रीवास्तव मैम। Very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for introducing me. Good evening to all of you. And thank you for coming and joining me to explore such a deeply important topic that is adolescent mental health. I welcome you all.
Okay. मैम आप एसोसिएट काउंसलर भी हैं, आप मेंटल हेल्थ एसोसिएशन ऑटिज्म असेसमेंट एंड सेल्फ एंड इंटरवेंशन स्पेशलिस्ट भी हैं। आप चिल्ड्रन एंड एडोलेसेंस में डील करते हैं। मैम का आज टॉपिक है एडोलेसेंस मेंटल हेल्थ। मैम आज हमसे अपनी वैल्यूएबल नॉलेज शेयर करेंगे। मैम नाउ इट्स अप टू यू।
Thank you. Can you please share the PPT?
यस मैम।
Thank you. Hello everyone. So, as we all know that we keep on listening about the news that there are several stories in past few months that so many of adolescents, so many of teenagers are struggling under pressure. They are committing suicides, and we keep on listening such informations. So it's high time that in spite of just hearing about such instances, we need to know that what is going behind them. So today's session is about being aware, being present, and taking a compassionate action in the favor of adolescents' mental health. Next, please. This is a little about me, which ma'am has already told in the introduction only. Next, please. So, okay, this is a brief listing that what we will be what we will be doing in next 1 hour. It will be a journey including understanding adolescents and what challenges they are facing, the solutions and the reflections also. So the list includes understanding adolescents, the challenges, a real life example from my therapy practice only, and what tools I used with that client, and what are the role of the key stakeholders in the mental health of adolescents. It will be followed by some frequently asked questions, a reflection prompt, and a Q&A. But before diving deep into today's webinar, I would like to ask you a question that have you ever seen a teenager struggling emotionally? Next slide, please. You can answer yes or no in the chat box if you have ever seen a teenager struggling mentally. Am I audible? Okay, so I can see some of the yes here. So the next follow-up question with this will be that if you have to define teen stress in one word, whatever word comes first in your mind, you can drop it in the chat box. Any word that comes in your mind. You don't need to keep any filter. You can be real. Any word that comes in your mind when you think of teen stress or teen pressure. Okay, I've received some of the responses. So whatever words that come into our mind, like it can be comparison, it can be academic pressure, it can be social pressure, it can be anything, but all these words are not just random guesses. These are the words that make us think that what is going behind the uh, banner of adolescent mental health. This thought leads us to the most important or the first section of our webinar, which is neurological. Please, next slide. So, yes, I have received some new responses also, like daily life hassle, isolate the selves. So when we get to know these words actually reflect what adolescents are going through, and we need to understand the mental status and the problems they are facing or the transition they are facing in their brain. First of all, we'll get to know that what are the neurodevelopmental shifts. In neurodevelopmental shifts, we won't go into a whole anatomy of the brain, but we'll focus on two very important parts. First is prefrontal cortex, which works or which manages the logic, planning, and the impulse control. Now, since the adolescent mind is still under construction, the prefrontal cortex is still developing, and the amygdala, which manages our emotional reactions, is even more reactive. So this imbalance of the developments which is still going on in the teenager's brain, so this imbalance leads to the impulsive behavior or over emotional behaviors of our teenagers. So when we think that the teenager is being rebellious, it is not just being rebellious. He is not showing the tantrums, he is not getting rebellious. It is the part of their growing up. And when all of these are going inside their brain, it is not only the transition which is going inside their brain, there is also a conflict and transition which is going for them in the outside world. Along with this inner conflict, there is another significant process that is going on, which is the struggle of identity. Our adolescents or our teenagers keep on questioning themselves that who am I? Where do I belong to? And this self doubt is very, very vulnerable to the perspectives how people perceive them. It can be their friends, it can be their parents, it can be their teachers, anyone. So for them, tens or hundreds of compliments won't work that amazingly, but a simple criticism or a simple comparison will affect them drastically. So the now when this identity and belonging crisis is going on, it's not working or it's not going on in vacuum. It is obviously layered with social and academic pressure, and now the social media plays a very drastic role. Actually, social media is giving very easy space for keeping us thinking that giving us basically the instinct of comparison, especially when a teenager starts using social media. So it's giving a very easy space for us to compare ourselves, for teenagers to compare themselves, that what likes people are getting, what comments people are getting. And apart from that, academic pressure is really significant. And academic pressure also somewhere is in proportionate to the emotional support a teenager should get. We all have experienced that when we start getting older, like we get in ninth standard or 10th standard, the expectations teachers or the expectations parents have with our academic performances keeps on increasing, and the emotional support keeps on fading gradually. So here, this conflict or this crisis leads us to the emotional word to the teenagers, an emotional word which is rich, complex, and mostly misunderstood. We often label the emotional expressions of our adolescents like drama or mood swings, or they're not able to uh, behave properly. But it is not their fault. It is the uh, problem. It is basically the things going on in their brain. It is basically the chaos that is going on in their brain. So they are not behaving in a certain way to make you feel embarrassed or make you feel irritated. They are basically expressing themselves in whatever way they know. They are not aware of the basic ways or how to cope up with their transition phase. This transition, which is also inside them, also in outside world, they are not given the correct information how to cope with that. And when they are not aware how to cope with that, they behave or they react in an organic way, which we or which parents or teachers seems to believe that is it is inappropriate. So we need to think and we need to understand that as a parent, as a therapist, or as a teacher, we need to understand that this is not what they are doing intentionally. This is what they are meant to do if they are not told that what is the correct way to channelize their expression, what is the correct way to understand or channelize their anger. We often tend to see children that they are not behaving properly when they meet people, or they are not behaving properly in a gathering. But it's not that how gathering is affecting them. It's the transition, or it's the basic conflict that is going on in their brain. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we'll move to some challenges. When I deal with my adolescent clients or child, then I tend to see many challenges. The basic challenge when I deal with adolescent clients, I get to know that that is anxiety, depression, OCD, DMDD, body image struggles, emotional withdrawal, and aggression. When we say anxiety, that doesn't mean that it is a proper anxiety, or the teenager know that what anxiety is, what depression is. We as a parent, as a therapist, as a teacher, or as a sibling, we have to observe, we have to be observant. Here OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder, DMDD is disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. So now when anxiety comes, it can be in form of being overthinker, being over possessive regarding things. Depression can be, when we talk about depression, we also tend to misinterpret like being sad for something is not depression. So we often misinterpret depression also. Whenever we talk about any mental health issue, the intensity and the consistency matters a lot. So in when we talk about depression as a mm, caregiver, we need to understand of things. We have also. In OCD, it's not just about washing hands, taking frequent baths, changing clothes. We often attach OCD with cleanliness. But OCD is not only related to cleanliness. OCD is any obsession that is leading to a compulsive behavior which one cannot control. So it can be any obsession. It can be of a certain color, for certain color, it can be for certain hairstyle, it can be of anything. When we talk about disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, it's about sudden mood changes and body image struggles. We all know that when teenager is growing, his or her body is changing, we often see that there are a this is the perfect body, this is the perfect weight. But we often forget that when a body is in transition, when a mind is in transition, it is not always that the transition will be perfect at every point. So as a parent, as a teacher, or as a therapist, we need to tell our teenagers, or we need to make them feel that what they are going through is a normal phase, and they don't need to get fit in any of the body or any of the physical standards that your body should look like this, you should be of certain weight. Similarly, when the issue comes about emotional withdrawal, there are many times that when children or when the teenagers are not able to express themselves, they withdraw. They don't want to talk to their parents, they don't want to talk to their siblings. But one mistake that parents often make in this at this point is that they also get detached from the child. Like if a child is ki I don't want to talk to you, the parents get most of the parents get offended that okay, this is not the way you should behave, like behave with elders, this is not the way you should be a good person, a good boy, or a good girl. It is, they attach that with a good manner or good etiquette, that if you are a good child, you need to tell everything to your mother or your father. But as a caregiver, or as a parent, as a therapist, we need to understand that we need to make child feel so confident and make him feel the trust, not just make the pattern that you have to behave in this way to become a good child or become a good son or daughter. So that is very important to understand. After that, it comes aggression. Aggression, moreover, many times it comes when a child is not able to express himself or herself. Then the emotions or the irritation comes out in the form of aggression only. So I would like to tell you about the story of one of my clients, how I dealt with her. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is a live example. I had a client who was 16-year old. She had a symptoms of OCD. She had low self-esteem, low self-efficacy, and mood instability. She had symptoms of DMDD. She was persistently irritable, frequent temper outbursts. She used to hit her mother, hit her grandmother, and beat beat her grandparents, her father, everyone. So, what therapeutic approaches I took? Next slide, please. So, what therapeutic approaches I took? First of all, when we talk to an adolescent client, we don't need to do anything in the first session. What we need to do is just listen, because when you meet an adolescent, he or she is already, well, he or she is requiring a therapy because he is not getting heard enough at their home or at their place. So in the first session, what a therapist should do, that is just listen what he or she is saying. Active listening is really very important. And when we do active listening is not just you are sitting and the client is telling you something and you are listening. No, you have to show your involvement through gestures, uh, through certain words like okay, yes, that sort of. So the first session has to be active listening. So I did that. And active listening were followed by Socratic questioning. Now, what is Socratic questioning? Like whatever the child is saying, taking her to visit her own thoughts, questioning her in a way that she can visit her thoughts on her own, so that she can get to know ki, okay, I did this because this happened and I got angry because this happened. So we can use this. Apart from that, if the child is having a average cognition, the psychoeducation is really important. So what I did with the client, I explained her the OCD loop. She knew that okay, the she used to get triggered with the hairstyle of her cousin sisters, and it was not just the hairstyle, but because her parents were constantly comparing her to her siblings or to her cousins, so she tend to get irritated, and her irritation developed into the onset of OCD. So when she started developing OCD, then I make her understand the OCD loop. So I visually showed her on the paper that okay, this is the situation that is triggering you, this is the obsession, and this is how you tend to change the hairstyle of your cousin, that is the compulsion. And this is, so you got the temporary relief, and this loops is going on and going on. And she understood this in few sessions, around in 2 to 3 sessions she got to know that okay, this is actually happening with me. And as her self esteem was very low, so what I did is I gave her a certain write up at after every session. Like in last 5 minutes of every session, I asked her to write 5 positive things about her. In the first session, she was not able to write even one thing because she was so pessimistic about herself. But after after around 3 to 5 sessions, she started writing 2 to 3 things. So the main thing what I wanted was not making her write positive things, but the purpose was at least for 10 seconds or at least for 20 to 30 seconds, her brain was thinking positive about her. So her thoughts were going on thinking about positive about her. So that was very important for boosting her self esteem. And I also use some basic stories to boost her self efficacy, and some puzzles to boost her self efficacy. I hope that everyone is able to understand the difference between self esteem and the self efficacy. If there is anyone who needs to get that explained, please mention in the chat box. So I also used exposure response prevention therapy. So there were many techniques that I used. I also used trigger mapping. All the I prepared many of the resources for this of what daily she was doing. I created customized resources for her. Next slide, please. Okay, so after 15 sessions, she showed noticeable improvement. She was able to recognize her triggers. She was able to interrupt the OCD loop. She also told me that, okay, I saw my cousin sister in this specific hairstyle, but I did reverse counting, I did deep breathing, and I controlled it for 20 seconds, then I moved away. So that was the strategy I told her to do when she gets the trigger suddenly in front of her. So she did that, and she herself told me that she act- actively interrupted the OCD loop also. Her anger outbursts reduced gradually. She started regulating her emotions also. So it was a very drastic change, but it was not a magic. It went through a method, and it also, with the method or with the strategies, also it was empathy. Because in every session, the first thing she used to say that कि आप मुझसे बात करोगी ना, आप बात करना बंद तो नहीं करोगी ना, so आप मेरी बात समझोगी ना. तो so that showed that how much a teenager is being unheard or getting unnoticed. That when she felt that somebody is listening and somebody is uh, understanding what she is going through, even if when she was not able to control her anger, I always said that okay, I understand that you are not able to control your anger, but we'll figure out together. So the faith is very important and the empathy is very important for therapy to work on. Please, next slide. Okay. So now what helps when we are working with teenagers? Early identification. Like for early identification, we need to be aware. Either be it a parent or a teacher in a normal school, or be it a sibling, anyone. But early identification is very, very important. Like in the many cases, I see that parents are so observant that they can even tell the exact time or exact week when the child started exhibiting certain symptoms, either be it hand flapping or be it excessive jumping. They can trace the symptoms or they can trace the behavior changes. So early identification is really very important. Then comes parental involvement. When we are working with the children and adolescents, parental involvement and family environment is really very important. As a therapist, you can give 1 hour to a child or 1 hour to the client, or maximum 2 3 sessions in a day for various therapies. If the child is autistic or if the child is having ADHD, we can do maximum, therapists can do this. But what we but for the wholesome improvement, parental involvement is very much needed. Because whatever we make the child or make the client understand about him, about her, that how he has to channelize her issues, how he has to channelize her emotions, the parents has to play the major role. Because what the parent is saying to the child is their words are actually reframing his or her personality. Their words are actually affecting his or her self esteem. So that is very important. It also depends on the child that what problems or what issues child is having. If the child has is having anxiety or depression, we can do the basic counseling with the parents also. But if the child is autistic or having ADHD or having ODD, that is oppositional defiant disorder, then we need a more inclusive involvement of parents. So we need to give them a structured plan, because children who are having some neurological disorders, they tend to prefer a structured routine. Apart from that, behavior therapy is important. It can be CBT, it can be DBT. If you are not authorized to do CBT, you can always use the CBT tools as per the need of the client. So, apart from the CBT and DBT are used for different purposes, obviously, because CBT is used when a person is dealing with negative thoughts. it can be about parents, about himself. So when we have to restructure the thoughts, we use CBT. And DBT is working after CBT. It is basically for the emotional regulation. So we have to figure it out as per the client. And after that, we can use art therapy. There are many times when children and teenagers are not able to express things in words, but their art pieces express a lot about them. So we can use art therapy. And routine regulation is very important. The routine of sleep, the routine of appetite, the routine of academics is very important. Digital boundaries has come up with very much importance in recent times, because we all have heard about virtual autism. So this such things make us understand that digital boundaries are so much needed with our children. So we need to understand, and we need to be more vigilant about our children, that how much screen time they are having. And the screen time they are having is if it is very much uh, involving into their daily routine, if it is disrupting their sleep schedule, then it is the alarming situation. We need to take care of that. Apart from that, we can use a grounding technique. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is the grounding technique. Many of you must be knowing about it, so I would like to brief about it. That is 5 4 3 2 1 grounding technique. When somebody is anxious, when the client is very anxious or very disturbed, you can use this technique. Initially, you have to ask the client, okay, take a deep breath, then list the 5 things you can see around you. When the client is listing about the 5 things, you can ask him to list 4 things he can feel or he can touch. After that, we have to ask that 3 things he can hear. Any minimal sound, it can be clock, it can be AC fan, it can be birds chirping, horns, anything. After that, we'll have to ask that 2 things client can smell at that time. It can be his own body odor, it can be something cooking, anything. After that, we have to ask one thing that he can taste, or the taste he has currently in his mouth. So this grounding techniques works for the rational front of the child or rational front of the teenager. So basically, when we are doing this grounding technique, we are redirecting a child or redirecting a client towards his surroundings, which is making his nervous system of which is making his nervous system very calm. So we can definitely use this technique. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we are talking about different techniques, different strategies, then we have to talk about the stakeholders who are responsible for executing them. So when we talk about children, there are 3 to 4 stakeholders which play the major role. That is parents, schools, and therapists. First and the foremost thing, we need to uh, accept that when we are working with children, when we are working with teenagers, the empathy has to play the major role than morality. Now what parents have to do, parents have to give the emotional support. They have to be available. You don't have to do much with the teenagers, you just have to be available, because they're always searching way to express themselves, they are always searching way to cope with. So they just need your availability. So as a parent, it is very important to offer emotional support and make them understand that whatever they are feeling is normal, is obvious, and they are not doing anything wrong, they are not feeling anything new or anything weird. At a school, what at the part of a school, what a school can do is provide a safe environment and early identification and the counseling access. In this, early identification is very important because the major time children are at school only, so school can play the major role in early identification. Then comes the role of therapist. The therapist has to teach the coping skills to the child. We can never make child very much dependent on the therapy, so we have to, when we are dealing with teenagers, we gradually make the client capable of coping and capable of dealing with his or her own issues. Next slide, please. Okay, so when I work with the adolescents, I get to heard many questions. So some are the frequently asked questions. One is moodiness a sign of illness? No, moodiness is not a sign of illness, but as I earlier said, the consistency and intensity makes a simple thing complicated. So here is the same thing. Moodiness itself is not an illness, but when the moodiness is interrupting the sleep patterns, it is interrupting the appetite, it is interrupting the academics or the relationships, it need to get a deeper look. And the second thing is, what if teen resist therapy? Of course, we can't ask a teenager that, okay, you have this problem, you need to have a therapy, let's go for a therapy. This won't work like this. So what initially we have to do with the teenagers, either you can be at any part of the stakeholders, lekin you, what you have to do is, you have to build a rapport. The child need to trust you that if you are saying something that is good for him or her. So the first and foremost thing what you have to do is, first get yourself aware what the things are going on. Then establish the rapport with the child. After establishing the rapport, give the psychoeducation to the child that, okay, you are feeling this, it can be this. And the one and the very important thing that we should start doing now as a parent or as a family member, that making therapy sessions or mental health checkups as normal as we do with health checkups. We have to normalize the therapy taking. In that way we can make our teens comfortable with the therapy sessions. And one question I often see, that does social media harm them? So I would say that social media is a double-edged sword. It connecting with people and networking will never harm, but when it overshadows your personal life, then when it gives you way for comparisons, when you get into cyberbullying, or it takes avatar of addiction, then it becomes really harmful. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are some resources what I tend to use with my clients. This is emotional thermometer, trigger journal, some affirmations, and a homework assignment. When you work with your clients, especially with teenagers or children, we need to engage them in certain resources that are looking good, that are looking interesting, and that keep changing also. Because either be teenagers or children, they don't like monotonous patterns, or they don't like monotonous way of learning new things. So what I do, I keep changing and I keep evolving my resources as per my clients. So you can also make the resources or make the worksheets as per your clients. And if you need any guidance regarding that, I'm always happy to help for that. You can reach out me at my LinkedIn, and we can work together for creating the resources for your clients. Next slide, please. Okay, so till now, what we have seen or what we have talked about is how, as an observer, we are seeing things. How, as a non-participant observant, we are seeing what adolescence is, what are the challenges. We are seeing it as a non-participant observation. But now we need to understand it as a participant also. So I would request all of you to just pause for a while and reflect. Like, when what you have to reflect is, when you were a teenager, what you felt that you needed at that time, but you were not getting it, any emotional support that you were looking for, or anything emotionally that you were looking for at your 15 or 16 years of age, and you were not uh, available with that. Just take a pause and reflect on it. Please let me know in the chat box that what were the things at that time that you felt that you would have got, anybody who could have been available for you, anything that you felt. I hope I'm audible. It can be anything, you don't need to filter anything. If you're not comfortable in sharing it at the chat, in the chat box, you can definitely write it in a piece of paper. It's just a reflection thing, so you can write it in a piece of paper with yourself only. Okay, I hope many of you have written whatever you have reflected into your mind. At least you can give a thumbs up. Okay, okay, I have received a response. Okay, Drupti, I got your response. It is most of the teenagers are feeling like this, that they are very lonely and there is no one for them. So I'm waiting if any of more responses are coming. Okay, so as whatever we have reflected in last 2 minutes, either you have reflected in the chat box or you have reflected it in the piece of paper. The main purpose of reflection was feel to feel as a teenager what you missed at when you were at your teenage. So now what you have to do, you don't have to do anything more magical or anything that is very extravagant. You just have to provide what you missed. As a mental health professional, or as a parent, as a sibling, you have to just provide people or teenagers around you, children around you, the things that you missed at your teenage or at your childhood. That would be very, very significant for them to cope with what the transitional phase they are going through. Next slide, please. Okay, so this was about what I have to tell you about the adolescent mental health. We can anytime get into more uh, concepts in our future webinars also. So for now, if you are having any questions regarding what I have shared or any of the questions regarding your clients, you can ask them. Is there any question? It can be of any content. Can be related to any slide. Okay, if no one of you is having any questions, so I would assume that it was an informative session for everyone. So I would request everyone to at least give me a single word that what insight you have taken from today's session.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, please.
मैम टीनेजर्स को कैसे हम अडॉप्ट करें कि वो हमारी बातें माने और उनको कैसे वो चीज़ें लाएं हम उनके बीच में?
सबसे पहले आपको रैपो बिल्डअप करना पड़ेगा बिकॉज अ टीनेजर इज थिंकिंग कि हर कोई मेरे अगेंस्ट है। जब भी आप डायरेक्टली एक अथॉरिटी के साथ जब आप एक टीनेजर को कुछ भी समझाते हैं तो इट्स ऑलवेज लाइक कि ये मेरा बुरा चाहते हैं, इनको मुझसे कोई प्रॉब्लम है। इट कैन बी एनीवन, पेरेंट्स हो या फिर कुछ भी हो। जब भी आप एक अथॉरिटी के साथ एक टीनेजर को समझाएंगे तो वो हमेशा आपको अपने अगेंस्ट ही मानेगा। तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू नीड टू डू इज रैपो बिल्डिंग। आपको हमेशा टीनेजर के साथ एक रैपो बिल्डअप करना है। उसको ये फेथ और ट्रस्ट होना चाहिए आपके ऊपर कि आप जो बता रहे हो दैट इज गुड फॉर हिम। एंड वेन एवर you are telling something or you are explaining to a teenager, you don't have to explain it theoretically. आप कुछ भी लिटरेचर उसको समझाएंगे उसको नहीं समझ में आएगा। यू हैव टू गिव डेमोज, यू हैव टू गिव हिम सिचुएशंस। लाइक अगर आप उसे कोई मैनर्स भी सिखाना चाहते हैं या फिर आप उसे किसी सिचुएशन के बारे में एजुकेट करना चाहते हैं, सो यू हैव टू टेक हिम इन दैट इमेजिनरी सिचुएशन कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल हम डिनर पे गए थे, आपने वहां पे ऐसा बिहेव किया था, अगर कोई और बच्चा ऐसा बिहेव करता तो आपका क्या टेक होता, या अगर आपका छोटा भाई ऐसे बिहेव करता तो आप क्या बोलते। तो एक बेसिकली एक इंट्रोस्पेक्शन चल जाता है बच्चे के मन में कि हाँ ये ऐसे गलत था, ये नहीं करना चाहिए था। तो बेसिकली हम बच्चे को ये समझाएंगे कि नहीं कि आपको ये करना है कि ये नहीं करना है। हम उसे एक रिविजिट कराएंगे कि ये सिचुएशन हुई थी, अब आप खुद देखो कि क्या करना चाहिए था।
जस्ट लाइक प्रैक्टिकल थिंग्स।
हाँ, तो अगर आप थ्योरी बच्चे को समझाओगे वो उसको नहीं समझ में आएगी। आपको उसके थॉट्स को रिविजिट कराना पड़ेगा एक सिचुएशन में, तब उसे समझ में आएगा कि ओके ये सिचुएशन हुई थी, इसलिए मेरे साथ ऐसा हुआ या मुझे ये नहीं करना चाहिए था।
थैंक यू मैम।
You're welcome.
Oh, comments are there. Conversation of family and tea. Okay, anywhere. They are giving example.
Yeah, conversations with family at dinner table or TV time or anywhere. Definitely. We have one more comment. Can you please tell more about the slide resources? Yeah. Please, can you open the slide of resources?
Ma'am, this is.
No, it is around last third slide, I guess. Last third or last fourth slide. Yeah, this one. Okay, so Drupti, as you were asking about more about the resources, so the resources are what I prepare resources. It very much specific to our to all the different clients. Like if what I told about one client in the slides that she was having OCD. So what my session started with was an emotion thermometer. So I prepared this to make her understand what she is feeling at the end of the session, and I ended the sessions with the affirmation sheet. And between this two resources, I have to perform the strategies. Now, how to prepare these resources? You need to understand that what problems client is having. Like if he is having OCD, then you can use trigger sheet. Okay, this is the trigger, this is the situation, this is how I felt, and this is how I should deal with. If a child is having behavioral issues or he is not compliant with the parents, you can prepare an homework assignment using token economy. Token economy can be like, if you will do if you will behave in this way, you will get a token, and when 3 to 5 tokens will be collected, you will get a reward. So you can prepare the resources on the basis of each client, what he or she needs, and how you want to frame the sessions. It can, if you have any details about any of your client, you can ask that, and I can tell you that what kind of resources you need to prepare for that client. Harshit is asking, why do I never get angry? Harshit, is it so that you never get angry? What are the extreme situations you have faced till now that you were calm and composed? It can be in both positive and negative connotation, because if you are not getting angry, it can be you are so matured and so sensible that you are uh, okay with every situation, and you are so confident that I can deal with this situation. I don't need to get angry. I don't need to waste my energy in my anger. So it can be this way. Or the second way, it can be like you are just not interested in any of the things, and you are so um, kind of sad or disoriented with the things that you don't bother and you don't get angry. So I need to understand that you are at which front.
No more comments.
Okay, so I would like to say that if any of you need to know that how resources are made or how to create them, or you need any of the guidance working with children and adolescents, you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn profile, or you can mail me. You can reach out to me through the Personality Care Foundation also.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing
Thank
a
you.
valuable knowledge.
Thank you.
We
Thank you for
appreciate
giving
your
the
time
lovely
and effort.
audience. It was
Thank
really
you so
fun
much.
and it was
Hopefully आप
really
हमारे साथ
great.
आगे भी जुड़ी रहेंगी.
जी बिल्कुल.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.